I didn't think we could make another episode, but we did it. A lot of these are thanks to you guys. Number 1. So we know that you can shortcut to your first item quick slot by holding down on the D-pad, but did you know that you can also shortcut to your first attuned spell by holding up? Pure spellcaster builds have always had it tough with toggling between spells, and the highest skill cap thing you can do as a caster really is quickly switch between spells to confuse your opponents, so this gives you more control. Does this make sorcery viable in PvP? No, it doesn't. Nothing will. Number 2 is in the running for the most obscure secret of Dark Souls 3. So summon an NPC phantom called Swamp Cuculus outside of the Old Demon King boss fog, and then kill the Old Demon King with Cuculus still alive. Then, have an epiphany about how Cuculus is obviously Cornyx's apprentice, and remember to check back at Cornyx's cage in the Undead Settlement. A corpse will now be there, holding Cornyx's amazing pyromancy set, and the spotted whip which poisons foes. If you found this naturally in your playthrough, well done. This isn't all you can get from summoning NPCs though. If Nightslayer Tsorig kills you, and be honest, he killed everyone, right? You get the My Thanks emote. If you summon the Londor Pale Shade, you get the Dual Bow. If you summon Blackhand Gotthard, you get By My Sword, and Yellowfinger gives you the proper bow. I'm quite sure that there's others that I'm missing, and maybe even some that no one has discovered yet? I don't know. If you find any, let everyone know. Number 3. New Game Plus is disappointing in this game. Enemy damage doesn't seem to scale too much, and I personally haven't noticed any new enemy placements, which at least Dark Souls 2 did right. At any rate, New Game Plus 1 and New Game Plus 2 grant access to some of the Plus 1, Plus 2, and Plus 3 rings. Some of the best ones are the Plus 2 Gold Serpent Ring, or the Plus 2 Ring of Favor. I'll leave a list to them all in the description if you want to hunt them down. Number 4. So, in the last episode, I was really surprised to hear that so many of you got stuck in a hollowing state without a way to cure it. I just realized that sounds like I'm making fun of you, but it really is really hard to cure hollowing if you don't know how. So, if you don't have access to purging stones because Uria has gone, then just go to the statue of Velka after purchasing the grave key, and you can request Disillusion there. Once you've done this, and healed the Dark Sigil at the Firekeeper, then, all those hours spent in the character creator, they were no longer for nothing. Number 5. The Hollow Gem Infusion allows a weapon to scale with your luck stat, which I'm discovering is awesome if you run a poison or bleed build, since those things scale with luck as well. In addition though, did you know that actually being hollow, while also having a hollow infusion, gives you a +5 bonus to your luck stat? So if you're running a luck build, just infuse your shield with hollowing, and even if it's on your back, you're still reaping the benefits. It's a neat little mechanic to make luck that tiny bit more viable. Speaking of infusions, the simple infusion also has a hidden benefit. It scales with intelligence, but it also restores focus at a rate of about 1 focus point per 4 seconds. Now that sounds horrible, but it is actually amazing for some weapons that can take advantage of it. Take the Sunlight Straightsword for example. If I have 0 focus points, then I can't cast the buff, but if I have even 1 focus point, then I can. So if you're using a weapon that benefits greatly from even a tiny amount of focus, and most do, then throw this infusion on an offhand shield or something. It's amazing. Number 7 is to do with consuming souls. If you have a ton that you want to consume, then the fastest way is just to sell them at the Handmaiden. She gives you the same amount that you'd usually get. Number 8. When you're deciding whether to make that risky jump because there's a shiny over there, consider this. Important items like Estus shards or weapons or rings, they have a large glow, whereas regular items like consumables have a small glow. So if you have to choose between 2 items and a giant's about to smack the shit out of you, then make sure you choose the right one. Number 9. Segue. So if you're like me right now, and you have a huge pile of souls that you need to get back to, then never fear, because here's a mechanic I only learnt about recently. The Ring of Sacrifice makes it so that you don't lose souls upon death, which everybody knows, but did you also know that it gives you another chance to recover any lost souls already waiting for you in the world? So here, you can see my souls over there. I'm going to recover them, but I die on my way. But since I have the Ring of Sacrifice equipped, the pile of souls remains, and I have another chance to recover them. So props to Supermandrew7 for making me aware of this one. Number 10. The giant tree by your shrine, it sometimes leaves a seed of a giant tree behind, which can be used to temporarily seed your world. Any invader into a seeded world will not only have to deal with the host, they also have to deal with the normal enemies in that world, which just, pushes the odds more into the host's favor. I really don't get what From has against invaders. Anyway, the trigger for a seed to drop appears to be really similar to what it was in Dark Souls 2, where simply being invaded can give you a chance to receive a seed. For me, I found it was about a 50% chance that the seed would appear after I was invaded, but my sample size was pretty small, so it's hard to say the exact percent. In Dark Souls 2 it was 25%, I believe. Regardless, if you do get invaded, then remember to check for a seed, because you can hold up to 5 at a time, but only 1 can be at the tree at any one time. Number 11. If you want to be invaded more often, and who doesn't, use a dried finger from the Handmaiden. Using it resets your invasion timer, which is nothing new, but what is new is that it allows you to summon a third friendly phantom and a second invading phantom. A hidden thing is that to remove this effect, you have to travel to a new bonfire, not just rest at one. When you get grabbed by the rock stray demon, did you know that you can mash the shoulder buttons and the face buttons to escape its grab? Of course you did, you're a Souls veteran, and you probably do mash a lot of buttons out of reflex. But in this game, the only grab attack I've managed to escape from is this one. Mashing is no use against mimics, the Grues. Other bosses seem to have a set animation. I guess the rule is that if there's an enemy that sort of crushes you and you can see your character wriggle in response to your button presses, then that is when you mash the buttons. 13. The messaging system no longer requires an orange soapstone, and it's available here in your options menu, and at first glance the messaging system looks terrible, but that's only until you press the triangle button, and all of a sudden you'll have access to conjugations, another extension of your message, and even gestures as well, which returns from Bloodborne. No skeleton ahead, and then skeleton. Perfect. If a player rates that message, positive or negative, then I'll receive a health boost at that moment. But it is funny that it rewards you for placing a terrible or evil message as well. Number 14 is a returning mechanic from Dark Souls 1. It's that there's an easy way to deal with mimics, and there are a shitload of mimics in this game. Of course, you all know that you can tell if it's a mimic if the chain on the side is straight, and if the chest itself is very lightly breathing. Just like in Dark Souls 1 as well though, Lloyds Talismans put mimics to sleep. While asleep, they'll allow you to pick up the item it usually drops, so you can continue on your way after that. If you're lucky though, it'll drop the symbol of Avarice, which is a helmet that helps you get more item discovery, which is great in this game. The best way to farm this is actually just to peg Lloyd's Talismans at it until it drops it. Throw a talisman, hit the mimic to wake it up, and then throw another talisman until you get it, or until you run out of Lloyd's Talismans. You get more Lloyd's Talismans from the Handmaiden after picking up the Paladin's Ashes. Kudos to Patara on Reddit for reminding me that Lloyd's Talismans are a thing. Alright, so this last thing isn't just a discovery, it's also a bit of a call to action, which I haven't done very often, so I'm interested to see how well this can work. So, I can't quite figure out this mechanic. As you played through Dark Souls 3, I'm sure you noticed that you randomly get an extra Estus sometimes when you kill an enemy, right? Sometimes you even get 2 flasks. Myself and Illusory Wall, who is a Dark Souls wizard, we set out to figure out exactly what triggers this to happen sometimes, and so far all we've discovered is that certain enemies have a higher chance to give you flasks than others. Enemies like Dark Wraiths, for example, they always give you 2, and Red Eye Skeletons, etc. The odd thing is though, even these enemies stopped giving us flasks after a little while. And a similar mechanic existed in Dark Souls 1 with humanity. Enemies had a hidden point system associated with them, which, upon death, would count towards you eventually receiving a humanity, guaranteed. And I have a theory that Dark Souls 3 does work similar to this, but I also have a faint hope that the chance of you getting Estus could be associated with the luck stat. I think that would be really cool, but that's just because I want luck to be accepted as a worthy stat. So if you want to help us figure out this mechanic, then get out there, drain an Estus flask, and record what types of enemies you have to kill before you received a flask. My hope is that with a bit more raw data in the comments section, then we might get a little bit closer, because the only thing that's confusing is that it's irregular after a certain point. And if you do this, then make sure you throw your luck stat in the comments as well. Maybe this is a thing. Thanks for watching, guys. I know this isn't the most interesting video I could have done. There are so many amazing videos I want to make, and the thing is I've actually commissioned those pieces of art upon the game coming out, and the art is still coming in, and it just so happened this was the first video that had its art ready, and if you don't know, I spend like hundreds of dollars every single video just on the art itself, which is available for patrons as well if you want to get that as a wallpaper, and that's just a way of rewarding people for being able to fund like the incredible artwork that I love to commission, which I'm incredibly grateful for. Didn't mean to go on a tangent about patrons and such, but yeah, thanks for watching regardless, and I will see you in the next one, and the next one is going to be a very good video. Bye guys.